yeah, suicide in Japan, culturally insane. And the fact that there's a forest that maybe culturally drew them there. But it is interesting that also that it has this similarity that kind of almost makes it a vortex. These specific criteria. And so that's, I think, what really kind of brings it into the realm of like our stuff we talk about with UFOs is that now you're starting to have this paranormal activity happening in an area that's simultaneously having these major anomalies.
I think with the suicide forest, there must be, just like the Golden Gate Bridge, some type of draw of, there's kind of folklore surrounding that and kind of this mystique. And if you're feeling depressed, what better way to kill yourself than to kind of go for a walk in the woods and just
Well,
end
but at the
brilliant.
same time, that mountain is a Fuji mountain,
Yeah.
I believe,
Mount Fuji, yeah.
which basically you can see from many parts of the surrounding area, right? It's just like humongous random mountain. This Fuji mountain at the base is the suicide forest, right? And so
I
you
know it's
go
close
back,
by. Yeah.
yeah, it's not, it's like right there, but the base kind of button up against it, kind of. But
Yeah, I think the tree line goes up, but I could double check that.
I don't know
The
if it's I
forest,
don't know if it's on the mountain, but it's like,
it's at the base, and I think the
yeah,
forest has its own separate. They have like a name for the forest, but it is on them. It's the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah.
Like
right, right. And that mountain, of course, obviously you look at it just as a human, imagine like humans hundreds of years ago or whatever, going like, it's easy to believe like, oh, they had a feeling about the mountain, right? Or they worship the mountain or whatever it might be, right? It's a part that's very important. But, I mean, is it possible that certain types of magnetic forces are happening not just on that mountain, but really on all mountains, right? It's one of those spots where they consider it like the earth meets the heavens kind of thing, right?
I mean, dude, one thing I like, from that point that I thought was interesting about it, like, because we just been talking about this the last few weeks. It's like you look at Skinwalker Ranch, right? Like the magnetism there. There's like all these hot spots where there's, UFO sightings. And like we talked about vortexes a few weeks ago, like Sedona, right? You look at like the Hudson River Valley. There's all these spots with like, and there are physical equipment that can read, read the magnetism is picking up abnormalities. And so when you got a place like Suicide Forest where you're picking up a bunch of abnormalities and simultaneously you have an unprecedented amount of suicides there. I mean, the guy, like that last
Hundreds per
documentary
year.
was saying,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there's 70 to 150 bodies. They sweep the forest and find them every year. And then on top of that, whenever you just go for a random hike, they're just random ones you miss because there's so many damn bodies up there, and they're just showing like news after news after news. It's like that's a pretty crazy thing. And for it to at the same time have these abnormalities and then all this crazy shit we talked about with Skinwalker Ranch, and it has the same abnormalities.
Well, I don't know if there's radiation though that they've detected at this place. I know there's magnetism.
I haven't heard anything about radiation there, but also the culture in Japan, they have a pretty high suicide rate, don't they?
I don't know.
Yeah, they have like the highest in the world, and it's insane.
So it's not surprising that there's a forest that is called the Suicide Forest that is in Japan, and there's a shit ton of people that go there to kill themselves.
Yeah, but why did it start, right? I mean, it wasn't named Suicide Forest at the beginning.
They got high standards, dude. They got high standards, and they don't live up to the family standards. They go, actually, dude. I think from the movie I watched, The Forest, I think they kind of tell it in the beginning sort of as like a folklore or legend. I think like old folks, like the elders live with their children or their grandchildren, and the younger take care of the older, right, as they get old. And I think at a certain point when the senior citizens get to a certain age or inability to, if it's harder to care for them, I think they used to go into the forest as to die off, as to no longer be a burden to the family once they got to a certain age. Something of that nature. I know a lot of the elders, like old folks, would go there to die a long time ago, and that kind of set the whole myth of like there's a lot of spirits and it's haunted, because a lot of people, they call it, I don't know if it translates to the haunted forest or something like that, forest of spirits. It started out like that,
like the native name, you mean?
Yeah, like whatever the native name is, I think it translates to something like that, haunted forest or forest of spirits, something like that. I think the elderly would go there to die once they got to a point where they could, too much of a burden, too hard to take care of. Because you know they're very honorable people, and they like to go out a certain way. I think that's how it started. And then I don't know when the whole when it became, fucking Suicide Mountain.
Well, what's interesting too is like when they commit suicide, it seems like most of the time it's hangings.
This is like vast majority.
Well,
Yeah.
out in the woods.
What's wrong with the gun, dude?
There's trees everywhere.
Also, well, in Japan,
lots of trees.
That's a good branch.
So in Japan, it's really difficult. This is my understanding, is that it's really difficult to own a gun. It's
That's
not
a good
like
point,
it's not like it is here, where it's fairly easy to actually own a gun. And if you're looking to kill yourself, a rope seems, maybe a few minutes. Yeah, maybe a few minutes. Maybe
second choice.
Hey, before we leave this, like, yeah, radiation aside, Skinwalker Ranch, there was electromagnetic abnormalities all over the ranch, right?
Yeah.
Not radiation related. That's what I'm talking about with Fuji Mountain, right? And then same with Sedona, same Hudson River. So take all the radiation. Yeah, that's an extra just fun additive about that psycho place. But
some of these other places we're going to talk about right now do have the radiation effects.
Yeah. What's this? Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because you could easily, suicide in Japan, culturally insane. And the fact that there's a forest that maybe culturally drew them there. But it is interesting that also that it has this similarity that kind of almost makes it a vortex. These specific criteria. And so that's, I think, what really kind of brings it into the realm of like our stuff we talk about with UFOs, is that now you're starting to have this paranormal activity happening in an area that's simultaneously having these major anomalies that are
UFOs,
physically readable. Right. Yeah. I mean, like that. Because like if there wasn't any readings like that, if there was anything like that, and it was just, like you could just say like, yeah, this is just where fucking culturally it funneled people towards it to commit suicide there because of like their culture and the quantity of suicide and stuff. But the fact that these anomalies, it makes it kind of strange to me. That's all I'm saying. And you look like a snake.
I say let's go for a hike.
Dude. I would go there. I'm not so sure I'd go into those Ural Mountains though.